Hello everyone, this is Alexander. Today's video will look at how to use NoteBookLM. And this of course is part of the series where we talk about how to use AI safely, responsibly, and effectively, especially for students going into or already in Wesley College Year 7. NoteBookLM is probably one of the best AI tools you can use as a student for school. Especially if you want something safer and more accurate than just asking random questions online or interacting with sometimes less accurate tools like ChatGPT. So what actually is NoteBookLM? Well, it's an AI tool that only works with the sources you give it. That means you upload things like PDFs, document files, PowerPoints, etc., and it reads them for you. It can explain ideas, summarize content, and help you understand what's going on. And because it generally sticks to your sources, it's much safer for learning, especially because it doesn't usually hallucinate. And when we talk about hallucinations, that's when AI tools almost make up information or go off of sources that don't really exist. Well, the great thing about NoteBookLM is it doesn't usually do that because the information you give it is almost like its entire database. So how do you get to NoteBookLM? Well, to access it, you go to notebooklm.google.com. Um, and the great thing about NoteBookLM as well is it's owned or operated by Google. So that means that usually it's considered pretty reputable. However, when you go there for the first time, you'll probably be greeted by a page asking you to sign into your Google account, which is the same thing that would happen when you open Google for the first time on a new computer or when you open up an app like YouTube. But if you get past that, which you should be able to do, when you open it, you'll see a front page where you can create a new notebook. And each notebook is basically a workplace or a workspace, I should say, for one subject or one project. So what you do is, first of all, you create a new notebook, and you can do that either here on the left or up here at Create New. And once you've done that, you'll be greeted by a page that looks something like this. At this point, you have to upload your sources that you're looking at. That might be one source or that might be multiple. And for the sake of simplicity today, I've just taken one source. The great thing about NoteBookLM is it's really good for subjects like history, where you have a lot of text that you have to read through, and it can help you in some ways to interpret all of that text. Now that doesn't mean it should replace your reading, but it can help you out in certain ways, which we'll talk about. So right here, I've got a big file. You can see it's 47 pages, and that's a lot of text. So because this is a PDF, I'm going to look. It's not copied text. It's not on my drive. It's not a website. I've already found it, so I don't need to Google or research things up here. I'm going to go to upload files, and I'm going to find this file and upload it to this space. And once this source is uploaded, NoteBookLM will treat it like its entire knowledge base. And so when everything loads, you're going to see your first impressions. You'll see your sources on one side here. For now, we've just got this one. A chat area in the middle, and a bit of a studio here, which we'll also talk about later. But this main central section is the most important part. This is where you ask questions, but the key thing is that, of course, the answers come from what you've uploaded, not the internet. So another good thing here is you get a little summary of the document. This doesn't mean that you should just be using the summary to interpret the information that you're uploading. You should, of course, always read the document yourself. But this is good for times when you're doing deep research, for example, on a particular topic, and you don't really know what your source is talking about. And so before you start reading further, you might just want to have a quick look at what this document actually goes through. This can be very good when you're studying and you have limited time. So, um, with questions, this is where NoteBookLM becomes really useful. Well, you can write a question in the little question bar at the bottom, but whilst you can ask it almost anything, writing a question is really a skill. And you can see I've asked two differently worded questions that are basically asking the same thing right here, and you can see the response changes quite significantly. So on the left side here, we have a very vague question, or I haven't really set any parameters here. I just say, why did the Chinese Communist Party eventually defeat the nationalists? And whilst that's a good question, maybe, you can see it's not really doing the job that we need it to do. It's giving us a lot of information here, probably almost as much as the actual page if I were to read the relevant page, if I were to find it on the document. It's probably just as much information here as actually reading the real thing. And so this isn't really giving us much. It's just a entire chunk of text that doesn't really answer the question. So instead of being vague, what you want to do with NoteBookLM is be really specific. What you want to do is, instead of asking this question, you want to set your parameters. You want to say, what are the 3 most important reasons for? Or use only quotes taken directly from the book in your answer. I've misspelled taken there, but it's understood it anyways. And these are really important, using keywords like this, because you'll see it condenses the information, it gives you a lot, and it actually improves the quality of the information it gives you. And by saying use only quotes taken directly from the book, this will ensure that it basically gives you a starting point, and from there you can actually find these quotes in the book, sometimes by using Control F on your computer and searching up the quote itself. That'll bring you to the place in the book, or you can also use these numbers, which we'll talk about in a moment. But this is very good because then you can go check the information yourself, read a bit further, and make your own conclusions. So what we've really learned here is it's important to be precise when you're making a question. So tips when asking questions. Well, probably one of my main tips is to use the reference numbers. NoteBookLM, whenever it gives you a piece of information, it'll give you a little number next to it, and then if you click on that number, it'll link you back in the document where it found that information. And this is very important to use because that way you can check the information yourself whether NoteBookLM has got it right, and you can keep reading further to get a bit more information and make your own interpretations, which is very important. Like I said, specificity is king. The more precise, the more specific you make your question, the better results you're going to get. And of course, last but not least, double check everything. Even if it looks right, there's a chance that maybe NoteBookLM has looked at the wrong thing or misunderstood something. You should always double check, no matter what. Another important thing here is a Save to Note button. If you don't press this and you close your NoteBookLM tab and you open it again later, that question that you asked and the response that you got will be gone permanently. So if you want to keep this information for maybe next time you open your computer, click Save to Note to make sure it stays there. Okay, now a closer look at Studio. This is in the top right when you enter into NoteBookLM, and it's got a lot of different stuff here. It's got audio overview, video overview, mind map, so on and so forth. And this is a bit more advanced, but you can basically divide this into 3 different categories. You've got your overviews, your audio overview, your video overview, your study tools, things like mind map, flashcards, quiz, and you've got more your report kind of things like reports itself, infographics, data tables, things like that that are more useful for if you're looking at quantitative data or you're maybe in a work meeting, for in the future, this can be more useful. But as a student, you should mainly be looking at the study tools, things like flashcards to help your active recall when you're studying. And some students might also like to use the audio overview and the video overview. These are very good because even though you should be reading the document yourself, if you're having trouble understanding it, the audio overview and the video overview are basically like podcasts or explanatory YouTube videos that will explain the content for you or try and summarize it. So it can be a good starting point as well. I don't think this is working for now.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We have quite a stack of documents on the table today, and honestly, reading through these sources, it feels like watching a car crash in slow motion.
But on a civilizational scale.
Exactly. We are looking at the duel that defined modern Asia. It's this.
So you can see it's a bit of fun as well, but once it starts going into the audio explanation, which I think there was about 13 minutes, it really does dive into some of the content. But the main thing that you should be looking at are the flashcards, or maybe the quiz as well if you prefer that. And these are really good because in exam periods you're obviously asked questions, and this can simulate it, put a bit of pressure on your mind, and help you prepare for those exam periods. That being said, you should always double check to make sure what it's giving you is right. Read through the document yourself. Make sure all the information here lines up. And if you do that correctly, you'll have 75 or more flashcards that you can use effectively for your study. And then, of course, we need to answer when to use NoteBookLM and why. Well, NoteBookLM is especially useful in subjects like history, English, and language B. You can use it to summarize long texts, memorize key ideas, or scan through sources during deep research. But that being said, it should never replace your independent reading. And so you should really think of it as a starting point or a consolidation tool, not a shortcut. So in short, NoteBookLM helps you to work smarter with your sources, stay accurate, and learn more effectively. But that's if you use it responsibly. That's, of course, why it's one of the best AI tools for school. Thank you very much for watching, and please, of course, feel free to go through more of the videos in the playlist to look at how you can master AI better.